I also run a YouTube channel, Lakeside Productions, and on
Oh,
there
you do?
you can find episodes on the seaplane tender of my
You
repair
send
work.
me the information. I will put it up on the link here. What's it called again? Lakeside?
Lakeside Productions.
Hello again, everybody. My name is John D. Healy. I do a podcast. It's called It's Good to Talk, and it sure is good to talk. People know me because I produced a book a couple of years ago for my good friend Stoney McGurn. The book is called And That's How It All Started. It's his life story since 1941. He grew up in Leitrim in Ireland, and up until the age of 16, then he came to America. Different experiences in life, driving trucks, cars, taxis, and driving down south during the Troubles, back to being a bartender, bar owner. It's a very good book for anyone that wants to get a bit of history of Ireland and indeed New York City, what it was like living up in the 50s, 60s, and indeed 80s, and all of that. There are some naughty bits in it, so be careful. Go to confessions if you must. And my sponsors are Liffey Van Lines. They're a moving company here in New York City, and they've been around a long number of years, longer than the New York City Marathon, and they've been around here all that long. So they have experience when it comes to moving that lift you to the lifting. So I always have interesting people on, and today is no exception. My guest today is coming all the way from Sligo in County Sligo in Ireland, well, like Sligo town actually in Ireland. His name is Fionn MacArthur, and I want to get to know his story because he's living on a river. Fionn, hello and welcome to New York. How are you?
Hi, John. Thanks for having me on.
Tell me about living on a river. You're living on a barge.
That's right. I'm living on a barge. Used to be a Dutch sailing barge originally, and my parents, they brought it over from the UK over 30 years ago,
Oh,
and they have it now moored up here on a nice bit of land on the Garavogue River. So we're about 4 kilometers from town, and it's nice and close, central, and
that's very good.
surrounded by beautiful scenery as well. It's fantastic.
Oh, well, I've been to Sligo many times, and indeed, Sligo does have scenery and a lot of history as well. The
Right.
Garavogue, incidentally, for my listeners, is known as the shortest river in Ireland, but it has a very wide estuary that goes out to Sligo Bay and into the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
It was known originally, I think, for pebbles and seashells, I think, if I'm correct.
That's
So
right.
tell me more about your barge. When you got it over, your parents got it over, did it need a lot of work or was it ready to live in?
Yeah, so it needed quite a lot of work. I believe the previous owners of it had already started transforming it into a sort of liveaboard. But so
Right,
all my uncles and relatives were involved in the actual work and restoration of bringing it to a liveaboard, and so everyone got involved, and I believe it was fantastic. Obviously, that was before my time. I'm 28 years old, so it was a few years before I was born, and they had a restaurant in the town at the time. They had an Ollie's Diner.
ongoing project. Mm.
Sorry?
It was like an ongoing project for a lot of people. Ongoing
Yeah,
project for a lot of people.
yeah, they would have kind of
Yeah.
been tipping away at it, over the years. But
Yeah.
for the most part, they got a lot of it done with the bulk of the work done at the beginning.
Right. And I don't know much about, I know a little bit about boats because I've been out on fishing boats and small boats and indeed cruises, but for my listeners, give us an idea of the length of the barge and the width of the barge
Right.
and how many people would it sleep, we say, for example?
Well, it's 60 foot long, so
Okay.
it's quite a large, nearly a
That's
ship
significant.
in that aspect, right? It's a big boat.
Yeah.
She's
Right.
all steel
Right.
construction.
Right.
And originally it didn't have a cabin, so it then would have had a cabin altered, put on afterwards. So
Right.
there is an upstairs. There's 2 stories to it.
Wow. That's
And
even more exciting. Yeah.
right, so
Yes.
upstairs
Sounds
it's kind of an office space, the wheelhouse, we can say. It has a Murphy bed
right.
in it, and that's my parents' kind of bedroom. Then during the night,
Okay.
and then downstairs you have the
Excellent.
kitchen, all wooden interior. So they did a lot of work putting in kind of oak paneling and
Right.
obviously veneer plywood as well in certain spots. But the interior is absolutely beautiful, and
Yeah.
it feels
Sounds very
homely. Right,
Oh,
right,
I,
and it feels
I
homely
had
too.
people asking me questions, and I'll come to those people that ask me questions in a couple of minutes because I want to get more into
Sure.
the aspect of the boat itself. Now, the engine, is it diesel or petrol?
Big diesel engine. Yeah. So my
Okay.
father would obviously run it every so often throughout the year, or once a year at least, just make sure all of it
Right.
is working still. But we haven't moved the
Close
boat
one, yeah.
in 30 odd years. I was one when the boat was moved
Okay.
last. Obviously, to get it back up to a
Right.
movable situation to actually take off from the land, we'd have to undo all the plumbing, all the electricity, and
Right.
everything. So it'd be quite a job.
Okay.
Hmm.
And where it's moored, I guess I'm using the right word. Um, that's land that's owned by your family, I guess, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not
So I grew
paying
up. I
for a
grew up.
parking spot.
Right. No, and we we're very fortunate, like I said, to be where we are, like, in the spot that we're in and surrounded by nature, just
Oh,
across from Hazelwood. You might know the walk, the beautiful scenic walk, Hazelwood, and it's
oh
just
yeah.
before where the river meets the lake as well, just around the corner from us. So,
Yeah, I had Brian Layden on. Brian Layden on here. He is a historian from Sligo, and we talked about all the Irish history. Number one, but we went through all the Irish poets, and my favorite, of course, is William Butler Yeats, and
right.
he was originally buried in France, but his
Hmm.
desire was to be buried in Sligo, so they had to dig him up and bring him over to be buried in Sligo. So he's
Right.
buried at the bottom of Bulbin for people listening, and on his epitaph there. Let me see if I can remember it. Cast a cold eye on life and death, and horsemen ride by. People can check that if they want, but I think I got it right. And of course, if I say William Butler Yeats is my favorite poet, you'll have to look up my podcast with Brian Layden to find out who the guy is I don't like. He's not from Sligo.
Hmm.
Sligo has a lot of
Right.
beauty. The Loch Gill, Ben Bulben is known as Table Mountain
Right.
because it looks so similar to Table Mountain in Cape Town in South Africa, which I
Right.
climbed. I haven't climbed Ben Bulben yet. Shame on me. I should climb it. So tell us more about the boat. Do you ever think of doing like Airbnb on the boat for the boat, or
That could be a plan for the future. That's definitely a good idea. So you know the story of a bit about me growing up on the barge, and now
right?
I'm focusing now on putting work and into a seaplane tender. So my parents then had bought a seaplane tender. They actually bought this seaplane
What is that?
tender
Explain that.
before the
Explain
buying the
what it is.
barge. So it's a 19. It was built in 1940. It was used by the Royal Air
Right,
Force, and it was
right,
used for assisting seaplanes. So it's
right.
40
Oh,
foot
so it's like a
long.
carrier.
It's
Right.
a tender, so it's a very it's a ship. It's a boat with very nice lines, as you can imagine,
Right.
because it was built to withstand the waves of the sea. It's
Right.
incredible construction.
Mm,
I'm sitting in it right now, actually, and
right.
it's 40 foot long. It's 8 foot wide at its widest, its beam.
Right.
So it has 3 rooms. But if we want
Right.
to include the engine room, we can say it has 4 rooms. But
Right.
this cabin that I'm in wouldn't have really
Right.
existed at the time. It had a different layout above the
Mm,
deck. The cabins were in different positions. It would have originally been driven from the bow up at the front,
right.
and then it had 2 Perkins engines in it at its time during the war.
Right.
So they
Pretty
later in
classy.
life did. Sorry.
I said pretty classy. Two Perkins engine. That's pretty
Right.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And they're still sought after, those engines. And
Okay.
the previous owners, whoever had the boat after the war, changed them out, and they're changed to Volvo Penta engines, petrol engines, but still reliable engines, no doubt.
They're very reliable. So the barge that you live on, I know everybody refers to ships and boats in
Right.
a female context. We call her she. Does she have
That's
a
right.
name?
The
Has she a name?
barge is Brasso. Like the
Okay.
Polish company.
Was that an original name?
Um, that is not the original name. I don't believe that's the original name.
Okay. All right. Anyways, it has a name with
Yeah.
some history to it, I'm sure. So let me get back to some questions I came in from people here in New York. Let me see who I first. I have Christine Kenny. She works very hard here in Manhattan. She's a very stressful job. And she wants to know 2 things. She wants to know about heating in the wintertime, okay?
Right.
Like in the wintertime, like how do you heat the boat? And number two, she's very curious.
Sure.
She's asking about like bed and breakfast. Could you rent it out to Christine for a week so she could get a
Right.
very tranquil sleep, like a deep sleep, like sleep therapy?
Right. So in the barge we have a fire. It has a back boiler, so it's a enclosed
Right. Okay.
fireplace with a back boiler. So that heats our, what we call the immersion, I suppose, the hot water tank,
Right.
and we also
What do
have
you burn in
electric.
that back boiler?
So
What
normally
do you burn in
normally we would be burning wood, and that we would have ourselves
Okay.
from fell trees or anything. So we have a bit of
Oh, yeah.
forest here, a small bit of forest in the land, or anything we can also source that from fell trees around the area from friends of ours or anyone we know. The
Yeah.
odd time we'd buy it, of course, but we try to stray away from that. And obviously
You're,
coal as well. We try not to burn coal
yeah.
if we have to. But
You,
in the heart, at the depths of the winter, sometimes we have
yeah.
to get through, because it can be
And you
cold
could,
living on the barge in the
no,
winter
definitely
times.
not. You could get cold in the winter. And you could always go up there. Lissacull is near you, so there's plenty of wood there and trees there. You could always cut a few down. They wouldn't mind, I'm sure.
Right, or
And
well, anything that's felled, we would take anyway. So,
definitely, yeah, why not? Recycle it, yeah. The other person I have here in New York, his name is Connor Hendrickson. And him and his girlfriend, they have a beautiful restaurant downtown. It's called Hendrickson's Restaurant, and it's a bar and pub. And he has an offer for you, okay? And you can
okay,
think about this and see what you think. He would like to take your barge for 3 weeks in the summertime, anytime from
right,
May to September.
right,
He is a professional chef. He will source all local produce that's organic, chicken, vegetables, whatever else. And he will set up his mini kitchen restaurant there and serve food. Obviously, people will pay for food and they can bring their own bottle. But he wants you to give him the 3 weeks for free, but not totally for free. He will
right,
give you 40% of the takings that he will make from the restaurant. You have to think about that, and you
right.
can make
Yeah,
a counter offer. And
yeah,
especially if you have seating by the boat on the land, I
yeah.
guess he could up the offer.
That's it. It's a prime
You can think
location. We
about
can
it
say.
and email me. What's that?
I say it's a prime location.
I know you're prime.
Definitely it's
Well, you
something
can
that
ask him more.
is of interest. Yeah, we can talk
It's an
about this
interest. Okay.
further,
You
of course.
make your mind up, think about it, and I'll get back to Connor Henderson. I mean, they're here in Manhattan. They're on 64th Street on First Avenue, and himself and his good lady, they put out the best of food here in New York. Home cooked
Fantastic.
food, no such thing as imported food from China, frozen food. I
Right.
mean, after all, you don't want duck from China or wherever the hell the duck come from. By the time the duck gets here, it's frozen hard and it's hard to cook. So local, I'll
Sure.
let Connor know that you have an interest in contemplating on the offer, and maybe he'll go for 2 weeks, or maybe you want 60%. That's up to
Right.
you. It's your bar. You have to think about it. But
That's
it's
it. And
just worth
I
considering.
might have to kick the parents out first. I'd run it
Well,
by
you
them
could
first.
send them on a weekend, send them into New York for a long weekend. Yeah.
That's it.
As a
That's
matter
it.
of fact, like tell Connor, he could swap. He might have a room over the bar for them here, over the bar, not the barge,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that would be good. So let me see what other topics came up. I think we covered a lot there, actually. And let
Right.
me make sure I didn't miss something. So somebody else asked me. So obviously you're living close to your parents' land, so you don't have any issue with a license or anything like that.
No.
But if you have to go down the Shannon, if you want to go down the Shannon or go
Right.
on the Dublin Canal, there's lots of, like back in the day, a barge like yours would deliver Guinness from the Guinness brewery in Dublin all the way down
Sure.
the canal to bars that were along the way, and they were actually uh, drawn by horses. So the horses walked along the riverbank and pulled the barge along. That
That's
was
right.
back in the day, and Guinness now is everywhere, especially here in New
Yeah.
York City, and it was brought here by my namesake, Don Healy. So let me see, we covered a lot today, Fionn.
The barge was
Um,
even used for transporting coal as well in England. So it would have
right,
been used for transporting coal, and now it has, of course, the cabin on it. Later stage it was built,
right.
and it was kind of altered a little bit. But it's amazing to see, the gunnel, the kind of rail, the rub rail that you would see on the sides of
Right.
boats, on the actual
Right.
barge, that was nearly below the water. So you had like probably less than a foot, give or take, above the water line. So it's just incredible to
Right.
think that that's how much load would have been
Oh yeah.
inside the boat, and it just goes to show us
It
how
was,
strong these boats were built, the hulls of these boats,
absolutely.
Incredible.
And if you think about it as a method of transportation, I mean, I'm into public transport like trains, buses,
Right,
and now I'm into barges, obviously. To think that we're so practical and so economic to run as well, it didn't cost a fortune. We'll have another guest on here next week, and he's going to be a car expert, and he'll be talking about electric cars as opposed to cars that run on petrol, and hence the price of oil coming down and all that. Price of oil today is about $8 a barrel, and it's coming down every week, and I predict it will come down more and more and more. So getting back to Sligo town, I often stayed in the Sligo Park Hotel, which is right on your river there, Garavogue.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Sligo has a lot of attractions to offer tourists visiting Sligo, and indeed, your barge could be another tourist attraction. You could make it a special museum for people to have a look at for a Sunday afternoon,
Right,
and charge them an appropriate fee and get some publicity, like you are here.
right.
It's good to talk, the name of the podcast, and it's good to have you as a guest, Fionn. Have we
Thank
anything
you.
else to cover?
Definitely,
Garavogue is a beautiful river.
it's
Go
it'd
ahead.
be definitely something I'd be open to for this boat, for the seaplane tender. It would be fantastic to
Right.
to do something like that with it, and to have it rented out. That people could stay on it for weekends or any
Right.
time that I'm away, possibly. And I do quite a bit of traveling,
Right.
or
Well,
try to do quite a bit of traveling. That
when
could
I
work.
meet Conor Hendrickson of Hendrickson's Bar downtown, I'll let him know that you're considering the offer, and then
Right,
I'll put him in touch, and you can email. And he said he doesn't need much. He's very self-sufficient. He just brings his kitchen tools and whatever,
right,
kitchen knives and whatever good chefs have, of course. And I should know, because I have my own restaurant in my valley, Mother Hubbard's,
hmm
which was an award-winning restaurant, thanks to the Bridgestone Good Food Guide of Ireland. 5 years in a row, they gave me that award, which I'm very proud of. So good to have you on talking. Podcast is called It's Good to Talk. My guest, Fionn MacArthur. More information, you can email me, and I'll give you Fionn's information. I'll pass your information on to Hendrickson's restaurant, and you can make a plan and
Brilliant.
maybe get rid of the parents to New York.
That's it. I also run a YouTube channel, Lakeside Productions, and on there
you
can find episodes on the seaplane tender of my repair
Send
work.
me the information. So we can put it up on the link here. What's it called again? Lakeside?
Lakeside Productions.
Excellent. Lakeside Productions.
Yeah.
I love it more. It's really clever of you.
That's it.
Well, I wish you the best of luck going forward with the.
Brilliant.
It's like being an entrepreneur. So consider Conor Hendrickson's offer. I know I sound like someone on Shark Tank, but this is more like a river tank. And if I was on a river tank, I'd be a goldfish in a pot of water, I guess.
Luckily, there's no sharks in these waters.
Well, one last question. Is there fish in the Garavogue? I'm sure there are. Fishing? Fionn, fishing in the Garavogue.
Right.
Is there fishing in the Garavogue?
There is quite a good fishing. I'm not into fishing myself. I don't think I have the patience for it. But
right.
Yeah, there's a big community of fishermen and people interested in fishing here. So yeah.
Right. Because I looked up some mythology about Sligo, and the Garavogue, allegedly, according to mythology, is supposed to have salmon all year round.
Right.
Now I know
well, there is good salmon fishing.
Good salmon fishing. All right, that's interesting to know, because now Conor Hendrickson is going to be more interested that he can catch local produce.
Right.
I'm going to say goodbye to you, Oscailga, because my listeners like to learn a few words in Irish. So Shin Scale, agus Scale Ella. I'm going to say Slán to Fionn MacArthur. And until next time, Slán go fóill. Bye for now.
Brilliant. Thanks a million.